Hello, welcome to another open lecture. Today I wanted to just really quite briefly talk about this idea of the creative act being a form of cleansing, and that you can get so many things of yourself out of emotional turmoil or complexity through the act of creativity. And so I think um, that to be real and 100% honest and unworried if others are looking at you, being confident in yourself, even as you're fully dressed and vibrant self, almost as if you were a sort of grown up form of your childhood self, I think is maybe one of the core things about being creative is that too, this reconnection with the self, with the body, and the reconnection with the inner child, who you were before the world told you who you had to be. And I think that that's a very profound and pertinent thing to try to cultivate, to cut through the sort of essences that we begin to gather around ourselves like a plaster cast as we get older, through socialization and through our cultures and through things which have been done simply because they've been done and there's no real questioning to it. I would say to question is better. And in that way, perhaps authenticity over popularity seems to be a radical departure from the current zeitgeist, which is the opposite of that, which is that popularity over authenticity. The more and more I watch YouTube or I'm on social media, I find myself walking away from it or turning away from it and being um, quite taken aback at the level of commodification of the self and the commodification of flesh in a way, of the self as a curated brand, almost as if it was an icon, but completely divorced from the human reality of that. And I think to sort of never sell out, instead become more yourself, which perhaps becoming more yourself is essentially becoming more eccentric to a degree. I think, children are themselves. They have no other choice, really. They don't know. But older people are an interesting study on the other end of the spectrum of aging, and that a lot of them adopt a sort of nonchalance. They've seen and done so much that it really doesn't matter anymore. They are just simply sort of eccentric in a way. They can be, not all of them, of course, but they can be. They kind of just become more themselves. And I think, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could start to this in your 20s or 30s and live the rest of your life, in that sort of, as if you were 80 years old, sort of, with that mentality anyway, that sort of sagacious, temperate, hopefully quite wise, but also humorous. You know that life is serious, but it's also not as serious as it's made out to be. Um, and I don't think anything's really wrong with a lot of us, the people that have growing up on social media. I don't think, all of these psychological issues and problems, I think, of course, they're directly proportional to the external reality of life. There's more complexity, there's more pressure, all of this, of course. But I think that also there is a propensity towards these aspects of performing victimhood and performing in a way that's almost melodramatic. This idea that, there's something wrong with you, you have to find something, as if looking for signs of victimhood as others in the past would have looked for signs of, plucked lice from themselves. I mean, it seems almost of that sort of order. And I think rather than trying to simply reject conventions or reject things, or say this is the case because that person did this at some time in the past or whatever, I think, isn't it not more interesting to perhaps try and be contrarian anyway, in order to get a deeper understanding of both sides of an argument, rather than, or like in debating, that you take the opposite side to what you actually believe in order, one hopes to try and understand more fully what it is that someone is, where they are coming from, really, and what it is that they are trying to say and communicate to you, the opposing side, as it were. Um, I think, instead, to be active instead of sort of resigned to this nihilistic idea that we're part of an extinction and all the rest of it. And perhaps we are, and if we are, we're part of a mass geological thing, so it's outside of individualistic or collective control in this regard. Things which things which are inevitable are inevitable. You can't change them. You can't change it any more than you can change the gravitational dynamics around a star. It is what it is. I mean, that's not to say resignation, but that is to say you have to understand, one imagines, the limitations, right, of yourself and of your creativity and also of your life. And anyway, I will leave that there for now, but thanks for listening.